Welcome back to Horn Takes, your Texas football and baseball talk destination. My name is Sean Redfern. We are back. We took a week off, folks. We had a vacation planned. If you listen to any of the shows before the SEC championship, you heard me say I didn't even look at a calendar when I planned a nice little birthday/anniversary getaway for myself and my wife. Her birthday is at the beginning of December. We always go on a trip. We usually go down to Fredericksburg. But since this year, in a couple weeks, is it a couple weeks? 10 days. 10 days we'll have been married for 25 years. I thought we'd do something special, so we took a nice little trip to Mexico. We had a good time. It was quick, but it was fun. Got some sun, got some pool, got some beach, got a lot of drinks, and got a lot of food for sure. I bet I weigh about 15 pounds more than I did when we went down there, but obviously I took my stuff. I intended to try to keep up with the show, and it just wasn't going to happen. So I apologize for that. I know uh, at least two or three of y'all probably would have liked to hear some more horn takes. I did do a drunk Sean thoughts though from the hotel balcony the morning after the SEC championship game. We actually got there on Saturday, missed almost the entire first half, found a place to watch the second half. But it is what it is. Now we're back in full swing. We're excited about the college football playoff. First ever college football playoff at Darrell K. Royal, hosting the Clemson Tigers. We talked about earlier in the season just how cool it was, and we've really been talking about it for a couple years now. Just some of these matchups we're going to get in the SEC, and some of just these new games we're going to have. Well, this one to me is another cool one. Clemson, another sort of, at least lately, blue blood team that's been in a lot of national championship games in the playoffs. Been to the playoffs a lot of times, won the national championship. So kind of cool to have them show up to Darrell K. Royal this Saturday. It's going to be a good time. We're headed down Thursday evening, I believe. Yeah, Thursday evening. So we'll be in Austin. Short week, obviously. Good though that it's a short week. It'll get us back into the swing of things. We're going to do our Trace Otra Games recap, championship weekend edition. And then we'll hit us up with this after action review on this Georgia game. I know everybody's pretty much past this Georgia game, but I had to do this for myself just to sort of vent, and maybe not vent, but like, just get some closure, heal. It's been part of my process for so long. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and the YouTube at Horn Takes. If you just like to listen to podcasts, you can find us at Apple, iHeart, Spotify podcasts, wherever you go to get our podcast. And again, I would recommend YouTube. That we're doing video content now. Matter of fact, we'll have some video up tomorrow of this Clemson team. We'll do some analysis on that. But go ahead and get that notification set for yourself so you see it when we add new content. Because I do different stuff now. I, I take excerpts out of the show. Like, for example, if I did a analysis of an offense that we're about to play, I would take that short excerpt and put it out as a separate video, not as an episode of the cast, obviously. So if you're just listening to the podcast episodes and you're just going and finding episode whatever, you're missing out on some stuff. So go ahead and do that for us. You can also find the audio at horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com. We appreciate all the support you guys give us. I was kind of wondering if I might see somebody in Mexico that recognized me. I didn't, which is fine. I don't have a big head. It crossed my mind like one time because I wore this hat. So it crossed my mind like one time, will somebody recognize me? And how cool would that be? And what am I going to do if they do? Because that's what I suck at. Those of you that have met me have realized that I am terrible in the moment of meeting somebody. Not like being kind and courteous and thanking them for watching the show, not stuff like that, but like I don't take advantage of it at all to like do a video or a quick interview or take a picture. Like I don't know, man. I am the most I am the most unpromoty type person on the planet. And so I've been trying really hard these last few months to do a better job of that. So if you see me, please come say hello. I love to talk to people out around when they see me. Love to talk football with anybody. Love to have a beer with anybody. And I promise you, going forward, I'm going to do a better job. So if you see us in Austin this weekend, I'll be there with my lovely wife. Come up, say hello. We'll do a picture, do a video. We'll do something. And I actually did take a video of a fan, not a fan, a follower. I don't call him a fan. I'm not famous or anything like that. But some guy I met at a tailgate and we were talking. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I watched your show, man. It's good to meet you." And all. And I was like, "Yeah, man, awesome." So we talked for a little bit and then we did a Georgia prediction. This is a tailgate before the Georgia game. I did not put that video up because I didn't want to embarrass that guy. So guy that I met, and another thing about me, I am terrible with names. So I apologize to anybody that I've met. I am probably not going to remember your name unless something crazy happens right when we're talking and you tell me your name. It's not you. It's totally me. I suck with names. So guy that we did a video that I said I would put up on TikTok. I didn't do it, and the only reason I didn't do it is because I forgot about it in the moment to do it. I took the video. I still have it on my phone. And then after the game, I was like, well, I'm not going to put this guy on blast and put a video up with him predicting Texas to win. I'm not going to do that to this guy. So that's why. So hopefully we'll see you this weekend. We can do a Clemson one. I'll get it up before the damn game starts. I won't forget. Anyway, Trace Otra games. Listen, folks, we coming into this week 28-11 on the season. Pretty solid effort. Not too bad. If that was a batting average, I'd be in the Hall of Fame. But we said we weren't going to do Trace Otra games. We said we'd pick some conference championship games. But as I was going through and deciding which games to do, it came down to 3. And then I was like, I just don't feel right not doing Trace Otra games. So we did it. First game was number 16, Iowa State, at number 15, Arizona State. We talked about how both these offenses pretty identical in terms of total offense, but Iowa State, a little more pass heavy. Arizona State, a little more run heavy. The defense is almost identical. Iowa State, a little better against the pass than the run. Arizona State, a little better against the run than the pass. And ultimately, I just said, you know what? I like teams that can run. I like teams that can run the football because I think running the football travels. A lot like people say defense travels. I think running the football travels. We had Arizona State winning the Big 12 in year 1, 30-24. They end up getting it done big time. 45-19. That Scattaboo dude ran all over Iowa State, at least the parts I could see. Watched a little bit of it before we got on the plane. Actually, I think we got on the plane like right when it started. So I watched a good portion of the game on the plane. And then once we got past a certain point, it said you can't watch this anymore because you're not in the United States, which was an absolute ridiculous thing. I don't quite understand that. I'm gonna have to research and figure out why that's even a thing. But Arizona State gets it done. Year 1 in the Big 12. Congrats to Arizona State. They're in the playoffs. They are in Texas's bracket. So if Texas were to get past this Clemson team this weekend, they're going to have to go on and play Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. I don't think that's an easy game. I don't think this Saturday's game's an easy game either, by the way. Then we had number 3 Penn State at number 1 Oregon in the big championship. And the biggest question I had, we hardly analyzed anything about this game. My question was, can James Franklin beat a top 5 team? The answer is no, he cannot. He's 1-13 in his career. He's now 1-14 in his career. I thought Oregon would absolutely bomb Penn State. I had like 31-20. End up being a pretty decent game and a shootout type game. I don't know the circumstances behind 45-37, which was the final score of that game, but I do know that 37 is only single possession away from a tie against 45. So Penn State held their own offensively. I'm a little bit surprised by that. Usually Penn State folds up under pressure offensively for sure against good teams. Oregon's got a pretty good defense. Maybe Penn State's a little bit for real. Number 17, Clemson. At number 8, SMU. Man, I've been on this SMU team all year long talking about how good they are, but we just thought this would be a little bit too big of a moment for SMU. Just not ready to go against a guy like Dabo Swinney. That's the thing. We said the great SMU season would come to an end, just fall a little bit short. We had Clemson 27-20. Clemson kicks like a 56-yard field goal, I think, with time expiring in the fourth quarter, to win it 34-31. I didn't really expect that. I mean, I thought it would kind of be a close game, but I didn't think. And then like we watched a little bit of the beginning of it, and it was all Clemson. So SMU really did a good job to get back into that one. I didn't see the whole game. I think Clemson was ahead the whole game. Basically, they started really fast. Looked like. So we're 31-11, headed into the college football playoffs. We'll pick some games this weekend. There's 4 games. We'll pick them. One of them will be that Texas game. After action review on this SEC championship game. Again, folks, I apologize for the lateness of this. This is more for me than it is for you. This is closure for Sean at Horn Takes Podcast. Let's talk about the 4 keys we had coming into this game. Number 1, we said run the football. Number 2, we said be bigger up front, be tougher up front than you were in game 1 against Georgia. Number 3, we said protect the football. And then 4, we said win the money downs. Could not run the football. It was worse than the first game. And actually, I don't think the first game was bad. I think we abandoned the run in the first game. I think in this game, it was just bad. Backs averaged 2.5 yards per carry. Tough sledding. And I rewatched my recordings got all dorked up, so I wasn't able to rewatch the game like I wanted to. So I have no video analysis of this, which is probably fine. I don't know that I want to video analysis this, but I feel like we ran a lot of zone. And y'all know how I feel about zone. I just don't like it. It gives the defense too much time to react. And it's hard for those offensive linemen to maintain those blocks that long. And I know they did it awesome against Kentucky, and they did it awesome against Texas A&M. Watch those Georgia running plays that they busted against Texas. They weren't slow developing plays. All they did was put a hat on a hat and get the guy going north and south. That's all. That's it. Get a number, get numbers, get a hat on a hat for that long, and get up the field. Be tougher up front. They gave up 6 sacks. They only gave up they only gave up 6. They gave up 7 in the first matchup. They couldn't really make a lot of space in the running game. The defensive line did have 3 sacks, but they gave up 141 yards on 6.85 yards per carry to the Georgia running backs. So not really too tough up front. So we're sitting at 0-2 headed into the third. Protect the football. Nope. 2 turnovers. 1 on the first drive of the game, which if they don't convert there, it's a punt. But I'm not one of those, hey, that's just as good as a punt turnover guys. I mean, if you threw it down to the 1-yard line and they caught it, great. That's better than a punt, especially for us this year. And then I think the one that, the really bad one was that one in the fourth quarter that led to 3 points. You could argue was the difference in the game. You're not going to win a lot of football games if you can't protect the ball. I mean, Texas has just been absolutely horrible, horrible protecting the football in SEC play. It's just been awful. What is it now? 7 of their 9 SEC games, they had 2 or more turnovers. It's 6 or 9, 6 of 9 or 7 of 9. You just you make it hard on yourself, man. You cannot do that against a good football team. Win the money downs. I thought the defenses won the money downs for both teams. They were both 33%. Both offenses converted at 33%. So both defenses won. We did not win any money downs on offense. And we talked about having to be better. And they were better, a lot better, 20% better in this game than they were in game one. We had our prediction, man. We talked about all the tough to beat the same team twice crap, tough to beat Kirby Smart crap. We talked about how we didn't think any of that stuff mattered. Ultimately, we thought whoever's big guys play the best in this game, that's who's going to win. And I think that's ultimately what you saw. Thought we'd get more pressure out of our defensive line, and we did. They were better, but they didn't hold serve. We said they've got to keep pace with the Georgia defensive line in creating pressure, and they just didn't do it. We said the Texas offensive line, we think they're embarrassed by that first game, and I'm sure they were, but it didn't change much of what happened in the second game. We took Texas 27-24. Georgia gets it done in overtime, 22-19. Just final thoughts on this one, and we'll put it to bed, and I'll never talk about it again. Just a really, really disappointing game for Texas. Texas fans, Texas players, Texas coaching staff. Just they absolutely dominated the first half of that game. And they went into the locker room with a 6-3 lead. And it's because they could not finish drives with touchdowns, or they could not make field goals. Listen to how bad this dominated. They had 237 yards of offense in the first half to Georgia's 90. 90 freaking yards of offense Georgia had in the first half. And they went into the locker rooms just down by 3. Texas had the ball for almost 20 minutes in the first half. If you were to tell anybody on the planet that Texas was going to own the ball for 20 minutes in the first half of that game, have 237 yards to Georgia's 90, and that the score would be 6-3, they'd laugh you right out of their face. This was a game where I feel like, honestly, physically, Texas held up really well. But they stepped on their cocks way too long in this one, and you cannot do that. 11 penalties for almost 100 yards. 6 drop passes. Texas had 10 drop passes in the entire season coming into this game. 6 against Georgia. I mean, if I told you Quinn Ewers throws for 358 yards against Georgia, not a single person is picking Georgia to win that game. In fact, most people would probably say, well, damn, they must have blown Georgia out. This game, like offensively, was just a colossal meltdown again for the second time against Georgia. They had some stats at this time. I mean, they moved the ball at least. Just can't get it done. I mean, we really failed in all three phases of this game. Special teams was shit. Missed 2 field goals, gave up a punt return, or gave up a fake field goal for a first down. Defense. You guys let the backup quarterback in his first drive of the SEC championship game march his team right down the field like he was a seasoned pro, like he was a 4-year veteran. You can't let that happen. You cannot let the backup quarterback come into the SEC championship game and lead his team on a drive like that to score a touchdown. You just can't. They couldn't stop the run in that drive. They couldn't cover anybody in that drive. They couldn't get any pressure on that kid. It was like they thought the game was over or something. I don't. That's a huge miss by the Texas defense. Huge. We talk about situational football all the time. It's going into halftime. It's that drive coming out of halftime. And then, like, the final drive of the game in a close game. Those are your situations you got to win. Texas had overwhelming odds to win that situation coming out of halftime, and they didn't. And not only that, they couldn't even just hold them to a field goal. They give up a touchdown. Now, I don't want to bag on the defense, man. The defense is awesome. This is an elite level defense. They just, whether it was scheme, whether it was just people not being where they were supposed to be, whether it was effort, I don't know. But that was a big time miss by the defense. And when I say the defense, I mean the staff, the players. Huge. When you talk about a game being frustrating and a game being a disappointment, that's what I'm talking about. I, I'm not necessarily disappointed that they lost. It's like the way you lose. We said a couple weeks ago, Texas got to find a kicker. Texas got to find a punter. Well, they got a punter in the transfer portal. He's apparently pretty good. I don't. I'm not going to ever watch film on a punter. It ain't never going to happen. I think they're important. I don't mean to belittle punters. They're certainly important, and ones that are really, really good are absolutely weapons. So hopefully this kid is. But you missed 2 field goals in this game. You make one of those, you win the SEC championship game. That's disappointing. That's a huge miss. These are all unforced things. That's the punch in the nuts about all of this. I can understand a kicker missing from distance because your leg just isn't that strong, right? Your leg's only as strong as it is. I can understand a kicker missing in just terrible weather, wind, slick field. I get that. I'll never dog a kicker for missing a field goal in the snow or wet field where his foot slips or wind's blowing at him, 40 miles an hour. Nobody would. This game was played inside a dome. And none of those kicks, outside of maybe that 52-yarder, were kicks that were outside of Bert Auburn's range. His ability to kick the ball hard enough to get it that far. I'll give him the 52-yarder. That's a long kick. But he's made 47 a lot. I think he made 47 in that game. No reason to miss those kicks. I don't know. What the hell do kickers do, man? If your job is just a kick, like how in the hell do you ever miss a kick? Again, conditions permitting, like I'm not I'm not being unreasonable about this. If my leg will kick a ball 47 yards under reasonable conditions, why do I ever miss a 47-yard kick? I get it. Sometimes the holds aren't good. There's things. I get it. I don't remember seeing any of that on any of those kicks. He just flat missed them. He did it in the Oklahoma game. He missed 2 kicks back to back. I mean, one of them didn't count because they called a timeout, but they weren't long kicks. Steve Sarkisian's got to find himself a kicker because they absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of shit that happened in that game, and I'm not gonna say that you lose a game on one play because you don't. But I will say this: to me, a kick is a normal part of a game. It should be something that's automatic, within range and conditions, and it just hasn't been for them. And you could argue that cost them the game. That fake punt was a ball buster. Texas finally gets a touchdown. They've moved the ball up and down the field, couldn't get it in the end zone. They finally get a touchdown, even the game up after giving 10 straight points up to Georgia. You got them 4th and 5, and they get you on a damn fake punt. Saw it from the bar in Mexico. The guy goes in motion. That never happens on a punt. Something's coming. I don't know that you're ever ready for I mean, you should be ready for the situation. I don't know if they were in punt safe. I don't know. Super ballsy move by Kirby Smart, by the way. On your own 30, you go for it with a fake punt. I mean, I might line up on 4th and 5 and go for it offensively. I don't know that I go for a fake punt on 4th and 5. They got it done. They go down, they score 3 points. The fourth quarter interception by Quinn Ewers that led to 3 points. You could argue that cost Texas the game. You just throw that ball in the dirt 10 yards in front of both of those guys, you probably win the SEC championship game. I mean, this game to me just seemed so much like the Mac Brown games against Oklahoma and Bob Stoops. Like he just could not get it done against that team and that guy. And I know it's only 2 games at this point, but that's just kind of the feeling I get. I I kind of get this feeling that that's the way this one's going to go for a while. And I don't know why Texas doesn't match up well with Georgia. There's teams that are not as good roster wise, physically wise, coached wise that'll go give Georgia fits, even beat Georgia. And Texas just cannot get it done. I don't know what it is. I mean, I think a lot of it is kind of like how Kirby Smart had to figure out Nick Saban. Sark's just going to have to figure out Kirby Smart. It it feels like Kirby Smart's just kind of a step ahead. It's not even maybe a step ahead. He just plays true to what he is. They 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 had no choice in the second half once Carson Beck went down than to say, "Hey, offensive line, you got to go win us this game." Hey, defensive line, you got to go win us this game, and that's what happened. I think Kirby Smart knows, and I think his offensive line and defensive line know that at any point The coach might come to them and say, "You guys got to go win it." I don't know if they have that at Texas. I don't know if the offensive line at Texas ever feels like the coach is just going to come to them and say, "I need you to go win this game." I don't know. This game should have been over at halftime. Certainly should have been over when Carson Beck got hurt. I mean, what are we talking about here? How often does a backup quarterback come in for an entire half like that and win the game in a game like that? Again, misses, bad misses, frustration, disappointment. I think, and I think he'll learn this, but I think what Kirby Smart knows and what Nick Saban knew and knows that maybe Steve Sarkisian hasn't quite understood yet is that sometimes football games come down to more than just your game plan. Sometimes football games come down to a series of moments or a single moment. And Georgia won every single moment like that in this game. First drive of the second half, they go right down Texas's throat, score a touchdown. The fake punt, overtime. They had 3 fumbles. One of them went about 30 yards after a sack. I don't even know how that happens. Texas can't get on it. The other 2, Longhorns all around. One of them bounced right back up into the guy's hands. The other one, there was Longhorns everywhere. Couldn't get on the ball. Moments. That's stuff outside the game plan. You can't game plan for that. I'd like to see, and I think this applies to Quinn Ewers as well. You know, people, there's this really big divide between Texas fans and probably fans of college football about Quinn Ewers. Oh, he's really good. Look at his stats. Oh, he's terrible. You know, we didn't win against Georgia twice. Whatever. Someone asked me the other day, like, because I posted on a message board talking about Quinn. I said, you know, there's this whole article coming out about him considering coming back and transferring. And I was like, dude, he is not transferring. He's not going to learn anything else. He's not going to become any more knowledgeable. He's not going to improve his decision making. He's not going to do any of those things enough to make a difference in his draft stock in one season with new coaches and new team. It ain't going to happen. I said, Quinn is what he is. And someone asked me, what do you think that is? And something I didn't put, and I tried to give a really thoughtful response. You know, I talked about him being really good, but him just being really inconsistent. I talked about how I don't think he has a lot of leadership qualities. It almost seems like Quinn Ewers is on the field playing football by himself a lot of times. He's just a quiet kid. He's shy. He doesn't have a lot of confidence, I don't think. As good as he is, I don't think Quinn Ewers is a very confident person. Just again, I don't know the guy. I don't spend a lot of time with him. Just my he appears to me as a person that doesn't have a lot of confidence. He's injury prone. Like he's been hurt every single season he's played. That's not his fault necessarily, but he's a tough son of a bitch. You got to give him that. He either plays through them or he comes back from them. But the thing I didn't talk about, and I wanted to, but I couldn't figure out a way to say it and mean what I really meant because my initial my initial thought was to say he's just not like a, and I did kind of allude to it. I said that I don't think he's a you can lay the whole game on me type of guy. He's not going to be a I can take over the game type. But what I think I really meant to say was that he's not good in moments. You go back to the national championship last year. They had 3 shots, or not national championship, the semifinal. They had 3 or 4 shots from like inside the 15-yard line. He just didn't make any competitive throws. You kind of saw the same thing before they kicked the field goal to force overtime against Georgia in this SEC championship game. Just not a lot of competitive throws. You know, if I was to say he doesn't show up when it matters, someone would come back to me and be like, Alabama, Michigan. And those are whole things, right? Like, but what moment there? And I think you can grant Bama. There were a couple moments in that game where he did arrive and he showed up. But when's the last time? I think that's the last time we've seen that. Big 12 championship game, people will say, look, man, there wasn't a moment. There was not a single moment in that Big 12 championship game where Quinn had to do something special. And so to me, when we talk about Quinn and we talk about moments, I think that's to me where he's just deficient. And I don't think that doesn't make him bad at all. I mean, I still think he's a really good quarterback. But there's just some guys, I don't know why. I don't know what makes it up, but there's just some guys that in the moment, they're going to be bigger than the moment. Like, and the one that pops up to me like the most obviously is Vince Young. There's just no such thing as a moment that's going to be too big for that guy on a football field. So I think Sark has to get better in the moments as well. That's it. I'm putting Georgia to bed. It'll be interesting to see how this. I mean, guys, if I'm nut punched, all of the Texas fans are nut punched. You know that staff, that team, that was tough for them. That was a tough loss. That was a game that every guy in that locker room absolutely knows they should have won. And a lot of them had a hand in them not. Right? Guys didn't make plays. So it'll be really interesting to see how Texas responds against Clemson this weekend. And Clemson's another team led by a guy that's figured out a way to win a lot of big games and knows how to play in the moment and can coach his team to wins in those moments. We'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, with a deep dive on these Clemson Tigers. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Give us a subscribe, give us a follow. Won't cost you guys a thing, but we sure do appreciate the support. You can email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. We probably won't do a live stream this week. We probably won't do one next week because of Christmas and all that good stuff. But we'll get back into that. I had a blast doing that. I'm trying to line up some guests for that. You guys have a good rest of the week. Let's get ready to beat those Clemson Tigers. Get hooked.